Happy Hump Day. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Welcome back to a new episode of the Life of a Makeup Artist podcast. Now, I don't know what time is going, but this year is moving a little too fast for me. It's only to slow down a little bit. But in any case, we have the Life of a Makeup Artist podcast to keep us company. And today we have Harry, who I think you are going to love. If you don't already love him, I am so obviously, floored by, all of his accomplishments, his success, and, his talent. But you know what I love most? The person that he is. And I think that you guys are going to get a lot out of this episode. I am so excited. So stay tuned.
But it was a long time ago. So I remember at least like kind of meeting you there. I'm always like a fly on the wall. But one last thing I want to mention, the red dot means that this room is actually being recorded. I don't plan on keeping the Q&A session. So if you guys want to come up and ask a question, you don't have to worry about that. But I actually also feel a little bit jealous because everyone I spoke to about tonight, Harry, they said you're the nicest person, and I was just like, wait, how come I
Oh,
don't know you? I
oh,
was like,
that's
wait,
so
what?
sweet. That is so nice to hear.
Yeah, my hairstylist friend, my makeup artist friends, like everyone was like, they love you. So I'm really excited to get to know you tonight and have everyone, in the chat as well feel like you're our new best friend. So is that cool? Is that cool with you?
Absolutely. Who doesn't need more best friends? This is great.
So the first thing I want to ask, and I only have a few questions. I want to ask you about your name, and how it's pronounced, your roots, because I actually have an Indian last name as well, and I think when people don't know your name, they kind of just make up stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't think
Well,
I've
it's
heard
funny.
you talk about your
I
name.
do have a funny story about my name. So, my last name, this was on my passport and is on my passport, but it was not actually my father's last name, nor was his last name his real last name either. Apparently, in the village that I grew up in India, or my parents did, or the lineage came from, there was a time where you were named after the village you lived in. So if you were named, like, let's say it was called like Smith Village, like your last name was going to be Smith automatically just because you lived there. But then there was a time that it came later that basically everyone from one area had a different last name, and that was going to be the last name. And then my dad immigrated to Canada, and he changed it to Josh. So if you were to say it in Western terms, it sounds pretty American, Harry Josh. But if you're in
Right.
India, you would say Hari Josh. So it sounds like Hari Krishna, and it sounds like, Joshi, like Josh. So it's very different pronunciation there, but basically, yeah, it is a Indian name that comes across incredibly Western when pronounced with an English accent or American accent.
Wow. So we should be saying Harry Josh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, honestly, I only know it as Josh because that's how I grew up. It's only when I went there that they said it like that, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. If I'm here, it would sound like that. So, but all good.
Oh, wow. I think that's so interesting. So I want to go back a bit. You started in Vancouver, and I think oftentimes, it doesn't matter the industry, but I feel like a lot of people feel sometimes very far away from their dreams. Like it's never gonna happen, or because I live X place or wherever, it's not, attainable for me. Can you like share a little bit of how you got your start?
Absolutely. And I think that that's very common for people to think that. And I would say that definitely did cross my mind because I grew up in the suburbs of Vancouver, Canada. So it wasn't even really like, I can't even say Vancouver because at least Vancouver is a metropolitan city, and I didn't really grow up in that city. I grew up an hour away in the suburbs, and not a very, trendy suburb at that. So the idea of being this boy, let me just give everyone who doesn't know a little bit about me, a little bit of a background about my family, because that's an important part of this journey. So you have to understand that my parents immigrated from India in the early 70s, and my dad drove a taxi, worked at a 7-Eleven. My mom was going to English school so that she can get a job. So we're talking really bottom of the barrel type of jobs that you do when you're an immigrant and you come to this country and just kind of start off from the bottom just so their kids can have a better life. So we lived deep in the suburbs because that's where we saved money. We lived with our other cousins, our other family members. That was kind of how we grew up in a household with multiple aunts and uncles and houses, sorry, and cousins all in one house. And that was just because we all came from these immigrant backgrounds. So for me to stand at a supermarket with my mom and then see a Vogue magazine by a counter, that world was so foreign to me and so far that absolutely, as I grew older, I realized how distant that could be to me. So I think it's a very common thing for anyone who doesn't live in New York or LA or is exposed to big city life to think, how do I get to be a piece of that big city life? And so that did definitely come across my mind. But I also felt I always had this thought of being, I always lived in the world of possibility. Like, but why not? I would say that a lot. Like, but why not? Why can't we ask? Like, why can't I just try? Why can't we just, I've always been that person. So I guess that would have been combative if I was a child to my parents, because I'd always be the but why, but why. So I think that was my determination. It got me really motivated to figure out how to do something with the power of my mind and not with the resources that I had that were given to me, because I didn't have them. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, how can I, with my mind, forecast this future of being in a foreign place, doing exactly what I've been doing for the last 30 years. So it really was a mindset. And I don't know how that was instilled in me, but it really just was that anything was possible, no matter how far and foreign the story seemed for me. I even predicted that I was going to be on Oprah when I was 17. And that nobody could have even imagined how that was going to happen. I'm like, my friend's like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I don't know, but I am. You'll see.
Wait, how did you predict it? Did you just say it
I saw
like
things.
man?
My whole life, I've just seen things. I just see how it's going to be. So it's like this, I guess, life's coming attractions. I've always seen it as like, this is how it's all going to play out. So I've been very like, lots of things in my life. I've seen things happen, trends happen before they happen. Like, or sorry, like in my mind, I'm like, this is going to be a thing, and it becomes a thing. And I was one of the first people to like do blogging, so to speak. And I only did it for like whatever, like 3 weeks or something like that. I had a website and people were like, oh, wow, you're like talking too much about things that are personal to people. I don't think people would appreciate that. So I stopped it. And then it just became a thing like a year later to blog and talk about experiences and people. And then a couple of years later, social media became really big. And then after that, it just like every person in the world was no longer a private person. Everybody was on there sharing their stuff and reaching out to their audiences. So it just changed the whole system. So I believe that change is ever changing. It will always be that way. So anybody who thinks they're fixated or stuck in their room or in their head that this is not going to play out because they've only see it play out a certain way and they can't see how their dream will play out that way, it doesn't mean that it has to play out that way. It can be played out in different ways. And you've got to expand your mind into thinking of different avenues and different ideas of how it can get there. It doesn't have to be this fixed road that everybody took and they all got there, because you can take another road, or you can actually carve out your own road to get there, and you can get there too.
I love that. So I have a question. When you moved to New York, did you assist at all?
I I did. I assisted for a long time for so many different places. First, I assisted in Vancouver after I worked at a hair salon. I went and assisted this hairdresser who did freelance, because I didn't want to work in a salon. I wanted to do photo shoots and magazines and that kind of stuff. And so there was only one hairdresser in Vancouver at the time who was doing that. And I went and assisted him after I was already a stylist on the hair salon. I did that for like a year, learned a ton from him. Then I went to Miami Beach and then I assisted there for like 2 years. Then I came to New York and then bobbed around for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. That didn't work. So basically, nothing worked. Every time I went to meet people, they're like, you're not there, you're not good enough, this, that, and the other. So you're like, okay, fine, I'll just not do it. And then it really wasn't until I went back to the salon on Madison Avenue in the mid 90s. And I've been at it now for what, 6 years, 5 years probably, and nothing was really taking off. I kind of went back to the salon world and like, okay, I'll just stay here because, this is where it's safe and, you can make money and it's okay. And I am in New York and that's not so bad. And maybe the dreams around being around supermodels, are gone, but I can still be in New York City and that's good enough for me. So I always rolled with the punches. I think that's a really important thing to remember when you're going through things. I don't resist anything that comes to me. The good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever. I totally can appreciate that whatever comes my way is designed to come my way, so I don't get upset about anything. And that's a big portion of life. I think if you can master that, like literally let nothing bother you, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish when you're not holding on to anger or frustration. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, definitely that was a big part of it. And it really was, the break happened because I was working at a salon. This woman who's coming in every month for, getting her hair done, she'd always have this giant binder in front of her. And in this binder had like all these big designers like Marc Jacobs and Louis Vuitton and Ralph Lauren and Anna Sui and all this stuff. And I said, wow, what do you do for a living? And she says, I produce fashion shows. And I didn't even think of that avenue, but I thought, wow, that's super cool. And I'm like, what does that mean exactly? And she explained, fashion show production. And like, we put together the lights, the staging, the sound, the models, the hair, the makeup, the whole nine yards. And I just, a light bulb went off. I'm like, forget hair. I'll do this. This will get me into the world that I wanted when I was fantasizing it as a child in my bedroom. I'm like, okay, if the hair is not going to work from another angle, I'll go into fashion production, and then I can be in the cool club. And that cool club to me at the time, when the 90s, was being part of that fashion set. It was a really fantastic time to be in fashion. The 90s was amazing. I was a small peon assistant, but I witnessed the greatest moments of all time in fashion with supermodels and tantrums and designers and like all of that stuff that was just over the top, and Concorde flights and you name it, sending like getting a piece of silk dyed in China the night before the show, like whatever, you name it. I was around for so much of that, and it was really exciting. And from being around that, I built relationships with these models as my friend. I became a casting director for the
Oh my
fashion.
God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I worked for Marc Jacobs for about 8 or 9 years, and I launched Louis Vuitton with him in Paris when he went there and took over the House of Louis Vuitton. I went with him to cast the first shows there, and I mean, obviously, I haven't done it in a long time, but I was the one who started all that over there with him, and that was super cool to look back and be like, that was awesome. I did that for so many years, and it was really cool because I built all these relationships with these models, and then when we weren't in shows, we were hanging out at my house as friends, and then casually over a bottle of wine, I would just give them hair advice, and they thought it was really weird. They're like, why are you, the casting guy, telling me to cut bangs? And I'd be like, well, I did hair. It's really what I came here to do. But, New York had other plans for me and decided I wasn't going to be a hairdresser. So I went into casting, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. But they trusted me, so they let me do it. So I started to do these girls privately in my bathroom in my house. And these were like the big girls of the moment. It was like Shalom Harlow and Kirsty Hume and, Giselle. And these girls were going on to big shoots, and everyone was always commenting on, oh, I love your hair, I love your hair. And it's always like, Harry's doing it, Harry's doing it. So this went on kind of underground speakeasy for a couple of years, and this is my big break. So now it's going to be 2002. The then beauty director of Vogue, who is named Amy Astley, who's not there anymore, was shopping at Yves Saint Laurent, happens to look at a model's hair color, goes, I love your hair color. She goes, thanks, Harry, Josh does it. Another model shopping independently of her hears that, says, he colors my hair as well. Then the sales guy who's helping her, he goes, he cuts my hair. And she goes,
Oh my
wait a
God.
second. She goes, wait a second. How am I Amy Astley and I don't know who Harry Josh is? And we had a good chuckle, and he writes down, he goes, he does Giselle and Carolina Krikova in his apartment. Call him. So that afternoon, I got a call from the Office of Vogue saying that, they're doing an article on 5 up and coming hairdressers. And we'd love to come to the salon to, have the experience that these girls have with Harry. And then I had to say, I'm like, oh, well, there is no salon. It's my studio apartment, and it's a 6th floor walk up, and I just do it in the kitchen sink. And they're like, oh.
Wait,
They're
so
like, no,
what
no,
did
we
you
want
do
to go where
when you
Giselle
got that
goes.
call?
I'm like, no, Giselle goes here too. This is the same place. So that's how that happened. And then she came in and did a big article on me. And then when the story came out, it was March 2002. And it was supposed to be 5 up and coming hairdressers, which it was, but it really turned out to be like a big feature on me. So I got a full page picture. I opened the story. It's a big article on me. And it literally changed the course of my life overnight. So at the time, I didn't have an agent. So I had Garen, who had a hair agency back in 90, whatever it was, reach out to me and said, I'd love to be your agent. And my first big job right out of the gate was Harper's Bazaar with Patrick Demarchelier. So I went from 0 to 100 overnight. So
That's
anything is
crazy.
possible,
So I have
So,
a question. When you got that call from Vogue, like what did you do? Did you scream? Did you run down the six
well,
floors
I
and
had
like
it
run
on
in the
my.
street?
Thank God, I'm really grateful because they used to have what are those things? Like a cassette player. I used to have like a voice recording system. So it was a little cassette, like really old school, and you'd play the cassette, and that would be like your, voicemail. And I played that cassette like thousands of times because I just couldn't believe, that they were calling me, and I just was just overwhelmed with joy. And that really just, made everything take off. And that's how it happened. So yeah, it was a long journey. I left in 91 and it was 2002 until my all of a sudden I was known. So it's not like it happened overnight. It took 11 years.
I want to get into the next question, and then I want to invite people on stage because I actually want to talk about your tools. Um, I'm not sure if a lot of people in the audience know about Harry Josh Pro Tools and the iconic green mint color. And I remember when I met you for the first time, because I've seen your stuff, like I've seen your stuff on set. But when I was assisting, I think this was like we were mentioning like 3 or 4 years ago, and seeing all of that, like just on the table, I was just like, wait, what is that? Like, do I need that? So tell us about how that your mint green, that shade came about, and like how you even started with your tools.
Well, you know what? I originally, when I was, the tools have been around now, I guess, 8 years. And originally, when investors came to me, they actually wanted to do wet goods. And wet goods, for anyone who's listening from me, like, what is that? That means products. So, like gel, hairspray, mousse, dry shampoo, that kind of stuff. And I told them at the time that I am not interested in doing that, and that I felt the white space was really in the tools. I said, as someone who's been in the industry, I'm very satisfied currently with what's on the market for styling products. The market is saturated with celebrity hairdressers who all did great lines. So now there's 30 of us who all have a great line. We're just fighting for shelf space in a store. It made no sense to me to join 30 other people that were much more successful, been around longer, have huge social media followings. It just didn't make sense to me. I make the white space here is tools. We cannot create anything as hairdressers without the right tools. And for decades, since the beginning of time, hairdressers have been sold tools by giant corporations and engineers who make the technology for them. There is no hairdresser curating the engineers on what is actually needed in the marketplace. And that is really where I felt the white space was in. I'm like, I had so many notes about so many of the tools I used. I wish things were different with the things I was using. And I thought that's really where I could come in and make a splash and make a difference. And that's kind of how it was the concept of my tools. And the investors originally had passed because they had said that they weren't able to, come up with the money that it would cost to generate tools. Products were a lot cheaper of an investment. So I passed. So the whole thing just kind of went south. And we're just like, okay, I moved on with my life. Again, these are all things in my life. Like I said, I don't mind what happens to me. So I don't let anything bother me. So, okay, good news, bad news, I take it the same way. So if you were to say that was the best thing ever, I'm like, thanks. Like, I don't think of it as like holding on to that accolade, like, oh my God, because that only sets you up to fall. If someone can rise you up, that means they have the power to take you down. So I just create everything as a nothing example. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's all equal to me. It doesn't make a difference. And that's a really great way to navigate, especially when you're negotiating things in life, because you're fearless with that. And you have to sit in whatever your outcome is. But that conviction brought those investors back to me and said, we want to do it the way you want to do it. So we want to do the tools. And I said to them, I said, if we do this tool line, I'm not going to do them mass produced. I want a luxury line, a line that has very high craftsmanship, with fair trade employees, which means no big factories where people aren't getting paid good wages. I don't want to manufacture in any country that treats employees like that. So I was able to get all these requests as a mission statement into this brand. And that really brought me to another level of integrity. And that's really I wanted to enter the marketplace with integrity. knowing that I would not be selling anyone garbage based on my name or my fame, but truly an item with high technological value and high performance skill, and really going to not only benefit the customer's use or the hairstylist for that matter, because I am making these tools for hairstylists as well as the consumer. I want them to be able, I want the hairdresser to feel just as apt to using my stuff, and the customer to feel that they can use what their hairdresser is using. So often we have hairdressers who use a certain thing, and then the customer goes home and uses something subpar and doesn't really get the result. So it was really my idea to create something that would going to be used by both. And the green color was a part of that integrity. I wanted to create an iconic line that would outgrow my name. So what that meant when my investors they wanted to use my logo, ginormous, on everything. And they're like, this will bring in everybody. People know who you are. And I said, no, because that is going to create a shelf life on the brand, because our industry is ever changing. As I've said, there's a new hairdresser coming up every year. There's a new whatever coming up every year. If you count on someone's fame or notoriety to move a product, you're doomed to have an ending, because all those things end. I said, let's focus on the product as being the hero. And if you want to eliminate the name, then we choose a color that becomes iconic and unforgettable. So the next generations who may be coming up reading magazines, or at this point digital tablets or whatever, may not know who Harry Josh is, because he was big in the double O's or whatever. It doesn't make a difference for a brand that's successful, because the color remembers, or it makes people remember the excellence that it's had for years around. So people don't even need to know the name, they just know the green product, the same way you probably saw the green product and didn't realize that was me.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I love your approach because I think all of us in the audience, there's consumers here, makeup artists, hairstylists, and I think we have been inundated with celebrity lines to the point where we're like, all right, what is this? Like, we don't want this. Like, stop. So I love that you took that approach because it's not about your name. It's about, are you going to deliver a good product? And people know when they're being sold to. Like, do you even love this? Are you just tapping your name on this thing? So I love that approach. Like,
Yeah, I definitely feel like for me, it was such a like for me, the best thing about my brand, unfortunately, it is not tons of money. What it is tons of awards. And that fulfills me in a way that I can't even tell you, when every year, 8 years later, we are still up for all the same categories, as if we're competing with the big dogs every year, and we come back winners a lot. And that really brings me joy, because I know we've consistently launched products that are above the shoulder for every in every class, and really has a good warranty to value of cost. So we have a double warranty on a lot of our products, which is really really great, because a lot of the products don't have that kind of warranty. So we're really, not only are you paying for excellence, but you're getting excellence for coverage as well. So all the things I just thought of that really make people feel secure about their purchase. And honestly, it's a beautiful looking product as well as a great performing product, which is a big part of how I wanted it to look. I wanted people to feel proud in their bathroom to lay out a hairstyling device. It's typically something people in the past would hide underneath their counters because it looked awful, but this is something people like to proudly display as art. My brushes, especially my little green oval brush and premium brush, I can't go to one celebrity or model's house and not go into their bathroom and see that brush on the counter next to a beautiful bottle of perfume. So that makes me feel really good as well.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. So with today being Earth Day, I'm kind of curious on what your approach to sustainability is, not only like with your brand, but in your own life too.
Sustainability for me is so common practice. I don't even think of it in any terms. It's not even sustainability to me. It's normal. This is just how I've lived forever. I've been a recycler before recycling was a thing. If anybody who knows me knows that I have a costume. I don't even wear clothes. I have like 4 outfits, and I just rotate them all the time. I've never been a flashy person. I've never put money into being something through my name brand, this, that, or the other. I've never been a flashy hairdresser, I guess, who needs to have, the whatever, the Gucci sunglasses and all that kind of stuff. I have no problem with it, at all. It just was never my drive. And my drive was also just the fact of what a waste those things could be when I could be doing so much better with my money to do something more impactful. Um, and I'd be the first person to take a hit financially for something if I knew it helped the greater good of a situation. You know what I mean? So I think the sustainability factor when it came to my branding was very obvious too. I know part of our job when you're creating luxury tools is the unwrapping and the unboxing. You see on social media, you see so many brands send out their gifts or their launches to editors and celebrities and models. And as a culture, there's this unboxing culture where you watch this celebrity or whoever open up this package on top of a package with stuffing, with this, that, and the other, eventually to get down to the item, whatever it is, a luxury oil or whatever it is, in a beautiful little box at the bottom. I decided to not play that game, even though my product costs more. When we gift that stuff, it is in the most bare bones, unglamorous package, because I won't put the efforts into doing that kind of stuff. So as a brand, even our recycling of our paper on our actual material, all our boxes are made of recycled paper. So we already are kind of doing as little packaging as we can to keep the product durable and be able to be shipped. And also just being very mindful of how we package and gift stuff when we do send them out, so that it isn't just like tons of excessive wrapping just to get a great video. That to me is not a sustainable practice when um, companies do that to create social media content.
I love that. I love that you said it's normal, because I think the conversations that my friends and I, Susanna, in the followed by the speaker section, so we have a lot of conversation on sustainability, and it's like it needs to become a normal thing, like very much integrated into our life, where it's not even a conversation anymore. But I want to switch it up a bit, because I think no one talks about this. So I was peeping on your Instagram. I went all the way down, and I noticed that you give so much love to your assistants. And it's something that you don't see. Like, I've assisted the likes of Kabuki, Pat McGrath, and Kendall. And, for me, the mindset, right, is that you should never go in expecting anything from anyone. You're there to serve, make their life easier. You might get a job here and there from certain artists. But you doing that, putting your assistant's name in your bio, doing posts on your page, to me, that says a lot about who you are. Because in this industry, it always is like, well, I don't want this person to steal what I have, or I don't want this person to come up and get more than I have, or whatever it is, whatever, lack mentality that might be. But I'm just like, I was floored. I'm like, okay, this is why Huss and Laramie and all these people were like, all right, he is amazing. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's something that we don't see, and I think it's worth talking about and shedding some light on that.
For sure. I think it's so important to have a community and to not be greedy. I feel so grateful for everything that I have received in my life. You know, every little moment that happened, every little job that I dreamt of, every little celebrity or cover, or every moment that happened that I somehow foresaw happening and it actually happened. I have such gratitude. And I just feel like, wow, if I could provide that for somebody else, like how amazing. Because somebody provided that for me. You know what I mean? The universe provided me all these little nuggets of greatness throughout my life. I'm like, I want to create those nuggets for other people so other people could feel what that feels like. And then also, I just don't have that feeling of jealousy at all. I just, like I've said it earlier twice now. It's just like, I just don't mind what happens to me. If you said to me tomorrow, no actress or model ever wants to work with you again tomorrow, Harry. I'm like, all right, that was a great run. What a good time I had. I was so lucky. I lasted 23 years or 25 years and had a brand while I was at it. Wow, that was so good. So I can turn anything around. I'm never going to be that person who's going to be standing up screaming and being like, no, and this person took my job, and that person, I'm better than that person, and that person sleeping with that person, and that's how they got it. And like, it's just to me, it's all low vibrational energy, all of that stuff. So I'd like to keep my life in a very high vibrational place. And when you're operating from a high vibrational place, it really does allow miracles to come into your life, and it gives you more opportunity. So when you're coming from an open heart, a giving place, a good place, the universe is going to keep filling you back up and giving you whatever you are giving out, you are getting back. It's not the other way around. So for people who have it the other way around, who think, I'm only going to give when I get something from people, or then I'll balance it out. That is just not a way that I think you'll ever get anything in life. It is always about service and giving first, and giving without the inclination that you need something back. The universe is always listening. It always knows what you're feeling inside. So you could be doing one thing, but if you are acting another way that doesn't correspond with your feelings, the universe knows, and that becomes null and void. Does that make sense? So, like
Oh
me
my
giving
gosh. Yeah.
$1 million, if I'm saying, okay, here's a great example. Person A gives $50 to a charity, even though he only makes $45 that week. But he's just like, this cause has really rocked my world, and I really want to do something, and I'm really moved by this. So person A gives that. Person B gives $1 million, um, because he needs to get good PR and he can afford it. So the universe is going to reward those two people very differently. And that person from the outside looking in, you might be like, wow, that guy gave $1 million. He really did a great thing. But that guy who gave $50 is going to get so much more. The universe is going to reward him in ways that you can't even see. And that's what life's about. It's about putting out whatever you hope for back in life. So if I want great experiences, if I want great opportunities where people help me when I least expect it, I want to be able to give that out first. And so my assistants are my everything. I don't do anything without my assistants. They are of equal value to me. They are equal value of my conversation. I treat and respect them very well. They treat me and respect me very well. I'd be lost without them. They organize everything for me. They give me so much. The least I could do is give back to them. So it's just something that's innately me. I don't know. I don't think that's normal or common for people in our industry, but again, I just think there's enough room for everybody. It's just the way I feel.
Oh gosh, you're the best. Honestly, I just love that. And I'm sure you've seen so many things in this industry. So to have that mindset is commendable. My kind of mantra is like do what you can with what you have. Like growing up in the Caribbean, my grandmother always made sure that we gave people things, even though we all lived in the same village. So I really love that, and I really appreciate you doing that, because sometimes it just takes that one person mentioning your name or giving you an opportunity to change your life. So but I want to ask you about your daily routine. You said this earlier. You were talking about like your meditation and your binaural beats, and like I just love that. So I want to know, and I feel like you're also a very intuitive person. So can you tell us more about that?
You know what? I have a very habituated way of living, and I always feel that people who have a habituated way of living can handle a lot, and it's because they have a routine in their life. And this routine is really important for me because I feel it grounds me. So everything in our lives is designed to unground you. Everything is designed as such. The fluoride in the water, I mean, the chemtrails in the air, everything is designed to unground you. So my whole purpose is to ground myself intentionally. So the morning and the evening are the most important parts of my day, which are like they don't get broken. That always happens no matter what. This ritual of something that happens in the morning and in the evening. So my morning routine is always going to be, I'll have my coffee, I'll do a meditation. And during my meditation, there's so many ways and techniques to meditate, but I really use it as a time to not only set intention for my day, but also to be grateful of how, everything that is going great in my life. I only focus on what's good in my life. If I were to sit in what is not working, it would be a snowball effect of such epic proportions it wouldn't be worth it. People are suffering. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world all over the place, personal things, health things, business fears, country fears. There's so much to think about that's so dark and daunting, and you're like, what's right, what's wrong? It's just a lot to take in. And right now, more than anything, we need to center ourselves, we need to ground ourselves. So my routine of this kind of flooding myself with consciousness in the morning through meditation, and then I'm actually projecting in my head, like I was saying, like a movie's coming attraction of how the next 6 hours or 8 hours are going to play out in my life. So if I'm walking into a set, what am I going to do? I'm going to bless everyone on the set with so much love and light that everyone's having the best day ever. and that we're going to have the best shoot ever, and we're going to have great communication skills. The client's going to be happy, the talent's going to be happy, glam is going to be happy, and we're going to walk off the set being like, wow, what a great day. So I'll already put those kind of things in my subconscious. So, what is my responsibility in this process? Well, I'm going to come in full of love and light, and I'm going to be super kind, and I'm going to do a great job, and I'm going to try to listen, and I'm going to try to pay attention, and I'm going to try to read the room and realize when it is the right time to talk or crack a joke or lighten the mood or intensify the mood or get inspired or whatever it is. During that meditation, I have time to talk with my inner self. And when I can talk to my inner self every morning and have a check in, it really sets the tone in a subconscious way for the next few hours to roll out. Now, after I do that, I'm going to go, after my meditation, I'm going to, put my dog on his leash and we're going to go for a beautiful walk somewhere in the city. And while I'm walking, I'm listening to, some incredible healer of sorts. Like I listen to Eckhart Tolle a lot, stuff that he says. So that as I'm walking around, my subconscious from now, first 2 hours of the day, I'm getting messages of this great way of thinking. It's like if people who go to the gym every morning, they go on a bike for half an hour and that's how they clear their head. This is another way. This is kind of like the spiritual gym, and if you want to get real buff in the spiritual arena, you got to like really do this every single day so that your brain is the sharpest muscle you have and you can navigate everything that comes forward throughout that day based on your subconscious that you set in the morning. So then I come home and then I start my day, whatever my day be. It might be, Zoom calls. It might be stressful because I'm talking to my accountants about moving money or whatever the case may be. I have that intention. So that's my go to. I can always come back to that. And at nighttime, the same thing happens again. I will find a way to get back into that consciousness and really be really grateful for play out my day. Now I'm going to look back at my last day today. What went right? What went wrong? How should I have said something that didn't go well and forgive myself of anything I should have done that I didn't do? And I set intentions for having a great night's sleep and then having a great day tomorrow. So this residual thinking of constantly, planning a mental aspect of how my days are going to roll out of these 8 hour, 10 hour increments really help me actually navigate those 8 to 10 hours every day. And I feel like it always works and routines really work. And for me, it's my saving grace and how I've really sailed through the last 50 years of my life.
I love that. My mom always says, "What you think about, you bring about."
For
And I
sure.
use these self care oracle cards. It's just this cute little thing I bought on Amazon, but I think you'll love it. It gives like these little reminders to reconnect, take care of yourself and your mind. And I'm happy to hear everything that you said because how you navigate that really like permeates everything that you do, your career, your relationships, like everything, your businesses. So I just love that. Okay, so for my last question before I pass it to Nicole, since you have some experience in predicting trends for the beauty industry, I would love to hear what you think is next. There's been a lot of conversation, especially on Clubhouse, around like technology and skincare and all these things that are happening. But from your perspective, such an icon in the industry in hair and with your line, I would love to know what your thoughts are. What do you think is next for beauty?
You know what? I think for beauty, we're going to see these extremes. And what's interesting about these extremes is because it is a reflection of our times, right? So you have a bunch of people who don't want to change anything because they're so stressed in every other aspect of their life that they're like, I don't want to change anything. I like my hair exactly the way it is. It's totally fine. I'm not looking to break out. Then you've got the other girl who is so pent up and so frustrated from whatever this last year has caused for them that they are so sick of, and also they're dying for individuality because all they see is masks and all this stuff. And they're like, I want to stand out and I'm going to cut my hair into a mullet. You know what I mean? And go platinum blonde. So you're going to have this dichotomy of these two type of women that are looking. One is looking to really stand out because she's just had it and wants to be like a look again so badly. And then you're going to have others who are just like, it's too stressful. I just want to have my hair the way it is and in a good place. So those are the two things that I'm thinking we're going to see extremes of. But when it comes to technology, that's really where it's at. So right now there's these fantastic new things that are in the work, which I can't fully talk about until like another week or so. But there is it's coming up from Goldwell and KMS. and it is technology that is going to change the natural starting point of someone's hair to begin the styling process. And I'll leave it at that. It's almost like coming out of the shower with new hair to start with before you start
Oh
to
my
style the
gosh.
routine. So it'll be
It
very
is.
interesting, and it won't be for everybody, but it will be for a large section of the population around the world that would really love a little more oomph in their hair. So there is technology that's coming out, and it's going to be very high techy and very cool. And I think we're going to see it trickle right down into beauty products as well, not just treatments and services.
Well, I definitely am gonna be sliding in your inbox to hear what the news is.